On today's show, the book, Wives, Fiancées, and Side Chicks of Hotlanta by Sheree Whitfield. For this one, ladies, we're looking at dreams.
Yes.
Big ones.
Big dreams,
Big
right?
dreams.
Friendships.
Oh,
Definitely.
no.
Come on, really?
How good of a
Yeah.
friend
All right.
some of these characters are.
Love, not to be confused with love.
Lots
Maybe
of
more
love.
love.
Yeah.
Love. Okay, we're gonna talk about that one.
Okay.
And definitely some deep choices.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, grab your cups.
Yes.
It's time for
The tea.
So we're going to start with dreams, simply because what Sheree Whitfield was talking about in this book was the fact that the main character, what's her name?
Sasha.
Sasha. Sasha moves to Atlanta, aka Hotlanta, because she's pursuing her dreams.
Right.
Fashion, that's been her passion. And she ends up in this place and space, but when I'm reading it, I'm thinking about, is it really her dream? Like, why did she pursue this? Was she pursuing it because people told her that she couldn't? Because remember, they talked about that. When Sheree's describing, she says, I want to prove to people, this character Sasha, that I can actually do this. So is she doing it because she's trying to disprove people wrong, to say you can't make it, or is this truly her passion?
I find it to be a bit of both, actually. And not to backtrack at all, but as you know, I love giving my first impression of this book.
Go ahead.
As my ladies know, when it comes to this type of genre,
Take a breath.
Take a breath.
Take a
Breathe.
breath.
Don't start with me. You know this is my stuff.
Yeah, it is.
So go ahead.
Go ahead.
it was so hard. I think the hardest part for me was, when the producers gave us this book, and I was like, the only time I can literally read this book is when I'm at home, because there is no way I'm gonna be on the train like, I'm not doing it. No, absolutely not. And to me, I think the hardest part is, yes, it takes place in Atlanta. And yes, the characters this seemed more of a reality TV type of genre, mainly.
And she said it. She said that's what it was about.
Yeah.
So it was definitely that
just
way.
to piggyback on what you said, with the show, I felt like those people, anybody that watches Wives of Atlanta,
Housewives of
yes,
Atlanta.
Housewives. When you read this, you're gonna be flipping through talking about, I think I know who this is. It's like, wait a minute. So for those people that really like Housewives of Atlanta, this book is gonna be, her. It's gonna be amazing. And then to get back to Sasha, I feel like her dreams were to come out and do something different, prove everybody at home that she could. So I think it was, and I have to agree with you, had to be a little bit of both, because it's like, isn't that what we do with our dreams?
But I was getting ready to
I
say.
think she was really following her dream, because she had a gift. From a young age, when she was in school, she was making her own clothing for herself.
Yes.
Her friends were inspired by what she did, so she also did things for her friends and made little garments. And so that was a dream, and she followed it. Now, by her following her dream, she may not have had a specific direction in which she was going, but I think she was actually following her dream. That's what you asked, right?
Well, so if we think about it, yeah, but again, it was what was driving it. We can follow our dreams, but what's driving it?
I think she had her own internal drive, because
Well, what
you got
drives
to
your
have
dream?
But she had to have a drive to move from her familiar.
Answering the question. We talked
my
about your
drive
dream. What's your dream?
Because once I set my mind on something that I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it regardless of what's going on. Because I could actually relate to Sasha in the whole moving piece. Because when I made up my mind that I was leaving Texas and coming to Maryland, I didn't care what was going on. I had to pay some bills. That meant I had to leave some stuff. So it got down to the point wherever did not fit in my car, I didn't care. I was
so
leaving.
we see her in that same type of space, though, making
where I see Sasha doing
those types of decisions. So it comes down to one of the other themes in the book that we saw, which was choices.
Yeah.
But just to not to backtrack, but I think just to add on to that, with it being about both, I think even based on my personal experience moving to New York City, I think it took getting into my 3rd year to realize, okay, are you doing this for yourself?
That's the
Or are
point.
you doing it, to prove something?
That's
and when I
right.
first got here, it was to kind of prove that, yes, I came here to be an actress. But then in order to stay and hustle in a city like
you go.
this, it has to be a personal,
Yes.
true drive.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's not going to work out.
And I would have to say the same thing about being in Atlanta. You got to have a true drive to make it there. So her coming from a small town to a big city to actually doing what she wanted to do and networking with the right people.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. We know that for everybody with dreams, and everybody has dreams. It doesn't matter whether you think your dream is important or not. Everybody has a dream. But at some point, somewhere along the way, we ask ourselves, am I doing this for me or am I doing this for someone else? And so with this book, as much as you say it's about reality TV, which I've not had the pleasure of seeing Housewives of Atlanta, but I'm sure that Leanne will fill me in on it because that's like her thing. And all the other housewives across the country haven't had the
Yes.
pleasure. But it's that theme is a real life theme.
Yeah,
It's
most
a real
definitely.
life theme. And I know, speaking of real life, I understand that there's this very hot, sexy scene in here.
There's a couple hot, sexy scenes in here.
Leanne, you want to fill us in on that? Because I know you found it.
I'm not
I
quite
know you
sure we
saw
can
it.
discuss the
It's
hot,
not a PG
sexy.
show.
It's not.
It's not a PG show.
So we need to label this
because
explicit.
people are going to want to read this.
Oh, but
really,
it's
they
juicy.
are.
It's juicy.
and you're going to want to read
Let me
this.
see how I can
Diplomatically
Yeah, this was
approach
on you.
this. Okay, go ahead.
Be
without
politically correct,
making
please.
our show X-rated.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right.
So going back to Sasha and you saying that she has to prove herself, what is it that she's doing this for? So further along in the book, not to give a lot away, but she was trying to prove herself to some friends that she met in Atlanta. So one of the things that she had to divulge in was some sexual activity that
Capital.
Da, da, da. And that's for
capital.
Yes.
In the name of friends?
some sexual activity. She was like kind of being taunted. Oh, you're scared. You can't do X, Y, and Z. So it goes back to.
And I think we need to
right,
go ahead and drop the part that it was group sex, not just regular sex. Did I say that properly?
Yes, you did. That was good. That
Okay,
was
thank
good.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was clean. Very
Thank
good.
you. I
That's a
tried.
preacher in you.
Yeah, amen.
So
Amen.
while she was there, she ended up really becoming somebody else that she wasn't, because she started participating in a lot of things that she didn't do when she first got there.
So that brings us to the question of friends.
Friends.
How many of us have them? Let's be friends.
The T. So this issue around friends influencing you to do things. Have there ever been situations, and just remember, you're anonymous, nobody knows your names, and we're not going to share your names. Have you ever participated in something that you were urged by friends to do?
We call it peer pressure.
Well, if you're young, you call it peer pressure, but
But you know what?
You
Even
still
as
have
an
peer
adult,
pressure as an adult.
but even as an adult, she had peer pressure because
Right.
they were taunting her. It's still people of your peers pressuring
Well,
you to do
okay.
something
Right.
that you wouldn't
Okay.
normally do.
Right.
But
Okay.
the question is, do you really? You have to be strong enough not to fall into it. Because I think that's the part that irritated me. Because when she first got there, she was strong, like, oh my God, I'm meeting this person. But then as she began to make friends.
But wait a minute. Sheree, say something.
Oh Lord. Okay, I think personally with friendships, or at least based on my personal experience, I think it still takes time, no matter how old you are, to get to a point where you realize that certain friends are only for a specific season.
Right.
And it takes, I think, a few examples, because personally there were times in which, you do so much for a friend and you keep helping them and they're always asking for help, and then when you need that help, they're not necessarily there. And the first time is fine, the second time is,
It's
a little shaky, and then the
Yeah.
third time it's like, you know what, if this isn't going to be an equal relationship, it's not needed.
Right.
But it still takes time, because even for me personally, it's hard to let certain relationships go,
Right.
because I'm hoping that there will be a change down the line. But I think for
Okay.
her, amongst everything and that big move to Atlanta, I think moving to a new place is already hard in and out of itself,
Yes, it is.
and also potentially being alone. And I think for her, it was more so how fast everything was moving as well. To kind of, I think for her, getting to that point where she could actually breathe and say, okay, what do I need for me to positively move forward in my life and to make this dream happen, you need to let certain people go.
So, in talking about the issue of friendships, we also talked about what it's like moving to a new place, moving to a new city, and having to make that decision. What I want to find out from our friends here, who's from New York? Who moved here from somewhere else? Okay, so this question is for one of you who moved here from somewhere else. What was that decision for you? What was that like, making that switch, coming into a new city? Because it was just so different from where you're coming from. What was that like?
So I moved from another country for opportunity. I moved to follow my dream. So I understand, I haven't read the book, but I understand exactly where she's coming from. But when you think you have a chance to do better, you chase that chance.
Wow.
So here's the deeper question. Is it at all cost?
No. If you have integrity, then it's not at all cost.
Yeah.
But you have to live with yourself.
Exactly.
And the decision that you make.
That's it. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. And that right there is what comes back to the issue that she has.
Her integrity. She
in
lowered
terms
it.
of the integrity and again,
Absolutely.
the choices.
Choices.
Because enter that big 4-letter word.
Which
Y'all are
one?
looking at me. Come on now.
Which one? Love
Work
or
with me.
lust?
Love. Love. What will you do in the name of love?
Stop.
What will you do in the name of love? Because that becomes the bigger issue. Who has made a decision in the name of love?
I feel like as human beings, we are chasing love. It may not be love of someone else, a person.
Okay.
But every day I get up and I go to work because I love what I do. So
Different kind of love.
It's a different kind of love.
Yeah,
but
still love.
That's our motive. I just feel like life is about love. So
Okay. That's a different perspective.
That's a good one.
Different perspective.
Because when we think love, we think romance.
Romance,
From a
relationships.
romantic-
Yeah. But
from
we're
a
not even
romantic
thinking about the whole
perspective.
self-love
Okay.
piece.
That's
Because if
true.
you love yourself, you are pushing and grinding and I think that's kind of like where Sasha started out, loving herself. Right. But then towards the end, it was just like, I want to be in, it just got mixed up in the hustle and bustle. So that's also a valid question, is that can you really start out loving yourself and doing for yourself and then get caught up in the hustle and bustle?
Because she lost herself in the midst of moving to Atlanta. So I don't think that she continued with that self-love. It was just diminished quickly.
Was it really though? Was it really? Because we can't give away the end of the book, but when y'all read the book, be sure to comment and let us know if you think that she lost herself in the end, because it starts out with just a focus on her. It goes to her passion and what she loves, but then in the end, you're looking at it going, did she really lose herself? We are in a time and a place where relationships are super critical and relationships are changing. There are some people who we thought were our friends, but we may be seeing a different side of them due to the choices that they've made, the people who they have selected and elected, the people who they have supported, and the people who we thought were very supportive of us, suddenly they're not quite so supportive. One of the things that we're really conscious of when we do our readings is the whole issue around relationships and how important they are in our lives. So one of the things that we want to now really think about is what types of relationships, just given where we are now, what's going on right now, what type of emphasis do we want to put on the relationships that we have and the relationships that we will maintain going forward, not the ones that we're giving up. What kind of emphasis are we going to put on the relationships that we're going to maintain going forward?
I think one point that just stands out automatically for me is that I think personally for many of my friends who are looking to get into a relationship, I think what's core and key is the individual first and being whole within yourself before you try and put yourself in a relationship and try and use them to make you whole, because you're never going to be happy. And I think that's one thing that kind of stood out with me in terms of Sasha, was that I think specifically in society and what's portrayed on TV and film and in literature, a lot of times Black women in particular are associated as mainly just one-sided in a way, that we're these strong women and we're not multi-layered and we're not vulnerable. And I think one thing that kind of made it better towards the end was that, okay, things aren't wrapped up in a bow, and yet, you know, you were able to see her make choices that might not have worked out in her favor, but were all flawed. And I think that's what kind of stood out for me, is that she was at a certain point trying to make all these other people happy. She was trying to, towards the end, at least go in a route to try and make herself whole first.
Okay.
Right. I would have to agree to that.
Do you agree? Is there anyone who disagrees with that? What's your take on it?
Hello, ladies.
Hi.
I actually agree with a lot of the points that you made. Understanding what a healthy relationship with has to begin with the woman first. It has to begin with her. Somewhere along the line, as we navigate life, you start to understand what will lead you to your better self. What types of relationships will lead you to your better self. I don't think that we always start out knowing that. You get to a place where, exactly, my ideal of the Black woman is usually that they're strong or whatever the case may be. I know different because I helped raise one. But the vulnerability and so on and so forth, you have to understand that. There's a difference between who you share yourself with and who you share your nakedness with. You know?
Yes.
I totally
Finding that in a relationship
Yes.
and understanding that there has to be a healthy boundary and that you make your own happiness. You dictate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I agree with a lot of the points that you made.
Awesome.
Wow.
And
Thank
I
you
had
for
to-
sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing
Because I think that's what Sasha was
Absolutely.
missing.
Absolutely.
Boundaries.
Do we agree that we change, that changes for us, what that looks like in terms of as you get older, that's where you start to really be able to define. I think that's where you start to realize that you have the power to really determine your happiness, because we tend to look at our happiness as something that is out there and somebody else. If you do this, then I will be happy. If you do that, then I will be happy. When really, it's in that moment in space, it's really about you. Regardless of what you do, going back to what you had said about the joy, regardless of what you do, I'm going to be happy anyway. You know, I'm going to be happy regardless of what happens. And even if it's perceived as not so good, I'm going to be okay with it anyway, because you ultimately determine if that thing is going to impact you or not, and to what degree it will. Even if it does impact you, you are ultimately the person who determines to what degree and level that will happen.
Well, I think part of successful and healthy relationships is also who you surround yourself with.
True.
So if you're surrounded, and this is just in general, not, you know, male, female, just friends in general, if you're surrounded by positive, uplifting, motivated people,
True.
then generally that tends to impact you as well. And
That's
it goes
true.
both ways. But if you're around negativity and negative people, then that will kind of take a toll on what it is and drain you and change your whole direction. So with the friends, for me, and just thinking about Sasha, it was basically who she surrounded herself with. Because I felt if she would have made a different choice of friends, then she would have made different choices in the directions that she was going, and she wouldn't have got sidetracked.
So is it her friend's fault that she got sidetracked?
No, I'm just saying that who she was around, because, okay, look.
Okay,
So I'm
break it
just
down.
saying this. You know I'm an educator, right?
Yes.
So working on one of my degrees, I was doing some research because I took here I go again, taking it back to me. But I thought about, you know, how was I able to overcome some obstacles that children in my same situation was not able to go through? And part of the research stated that 87% of adolescence is peer, and that's going back to peer pressure.
Yep.
You make your decisions. So now I was around a group of young people who their parents instill college. This is where you have to go. This is where you're going. So even at a young age, I might have been in this dysfunctional home where that was not being instilled in me. The people who I was around, their parents, you're going to college, you're doing this. So that's what I had to
By
do
virtue
to
of being
ultimately,
around them,
right.
you would have fit
Yeah.
in
And
with
then
your
I had
peers.
other associates that I was around, and they made different choices, but I wasn't around them as much as I was around the ones who made the positive choices.
So the
Because
greater influence
Right.
was
So
there.
that's what I'm saying. So Sasha, just who she surrounded herself with, that helped influence her decisions and sidetracked her a little bit.
But not a whole lot. Choices. Biggest choice they've ever made.
Moving to the United States from Kingston, Jamaica at a very early age.
J.A.
Leaving my friend, my family most of all.
Let me tell you.
I was very close to my father.
Yes.
And I came here and I didn't look back until after 5 years. But I
Yes.
did this so that I could be more equipped, more educated for my family.
Big choice. Big choice. Yes. Big choice. That's what you call. That's what you call some heart moving choices. Okay, we've got time for one more.
Yes. I just think your choices are also tied to your dreams. And
Yes.
sometimes dreams are a little bit, to me, like when you dream, it's like a fog first, because your dreams are never usually clear until you have had some experiences.
Yes.
Right.
You know? So everything to me is linked. Your dreams first, but dreams are always foggy. They happen at night. And when you wake up, you're not sure until life experiences through the people you meet and the choices you make.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So, ladies, it's time for us to spill the tea on wives, fiancés, and side chicks of Hotlanta.
Well, I have to go back to what I said initially. If you are a fan of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, this book is amazing. This book will have you flipping the pages trying to figure out, is this who I think it is, or this who I think it is? So I would have to recommend this book.
Okay.
I think normally books like these aren't necessarily my preference, but I would have to say what helped me to connect more for this book, especially since I don't watch reality shows of any kind like this, was the fact that her character was multi-layered.
Yes.
And the character development specifically for Sasha was something that I could connect with. So I would say yes, it was an okay read.
Okay.
That's
All right.
fair
That's
for you.
fair. That's fair.
Here I go.
Here you go. Here you go. She loves
I
these
liked
books.
it. I watch Housewives of Atlanta.
Yes, she does.
This was another reality in print for me. But overall, if I must put it intellectually,
Go ahead.
Please.
and not say
Go ahead.
ratchet,
Don't say ratchet. Go ahead.
it had a lot of great themes
Yeah.
that I could think about and connect to in my own personal life, and things that I've been through and are continuing to go through. So, I mean, I like the book. I like Housewives of Atlanta. Read it. That's my take.
That's a good one. I like that. Actually, so I'm going to surprise you all. Very interesting.
What?
Very interesting. Yes. It was a page turner.
I need
very
something more than
interesting.
this. That's
You
in
need
here
something
for that
stronger.
one.
Well,
Cheers.
listen. You heard it here first. You're going to read it. You're going to share with us your opinions on this, and we're going to say that this is definitely a read. As a matter of fact, we have 2 books here that we're going to be giving away to lucky members of our audience.
Woohoo!
All right, so who wants to pick? I'm going to shake.
Lily.
Pick.
Lick. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, Grace.
Yeah. And the second one, pick.
Oh, God.
You gotta pick
okay,
another
I'll
member
get it.
of our
I'll
audience.
get it. Let's see. And we have Sandra Lee. Sandra Lee, yes! Woo! And you get a book.
Yes.
Yay!
Fabulous. You are going to join us, as well as Grace, in your review of Wives, Fiancés, and Side Chicks of Hotlanta by Sheree Whitfield. Thanks for watching. Subscribe on YouTube, like our videos, and share your comments. Let's keep this conversation going and growing. And remember, who's telling your story?
The Tea.
Special thanks to Harlem School of the Arts for hosting this segment of The Tea. We especially thank Kensington Publishing for sponsoring today's show.